It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a syndicated weekly 1-hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football across the country, and always keeping an eye on other sports as well. And when we talk about other sports, particularly the last couple of weeks, Final Four, men's basketball, San Antonio, Texas, I'm coming to you live from the great state, the Lone Star State in Texas. We'd like to recognize our audience and let them know that we're available on various platforms, social media platforms. We videotape our broadcast on AP As We See It YouTube channel. We have all our interviews there from the Final Four and every event that we cover on that platform, as well as my personal YouTube channel at AP Stedham. We're on Facebook, our show page, AP As We See It, and then AP Stedham, and then Instagram, the same, and the X account. And we archive everything on the Spotify. All episodes, the audio is on the Spotify, so you can check that out as well. But our social media platforms at AP As We See It, and at AP Stedham, so you can check that out. But we're here in San Antonio, Texas, at the Final Four, which concluded on Monday evening. It was very, very exciting. But before we get into that, we're going to mention our sponsors. We want to thank Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. We start out with Lucy's Recipes, and she has a book out, so you can buy that in the store and at Amazon as well. And also you can click on the groceries to go, and they will deliver it to your home, your office, any venue. And you can pick up your groceries outside in your vehicle as well. Groceries to go. Check on that. The weekly specials online. They have the coloring contest monthly for the children. And also special occasions, the holidays, the birthdays, the anniversaries, and of course the March Madness we just completed with the basketball men's and women's. But you remember, football, family, and friends. You're going to be ordering your groceries from Greer's Markets when you celebrate all those events, and through the summertime as well, all the holidays, July 4th and Memorial Day coming up, and all those special occasions for you and your family and friends. Check out the fresh produce, the dinner essentials, the delicious food and snacks at unbeatable prices. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee. We'd also like to thank the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. I've stayed there many, many times. They have spacious rooms. They have a beautiful indoor pool. You're in the heart of the city in Atlanta, Georgia, right next to all the sites and attractions, right downtown, the Cortland Grand Hotel. Check them out if you're going to be staying in Atlanta anytime soon, because that's an awesome property. Ben Giacomora and his staff, they do a great job. They have excellent breakfast, buffet breakfast. They cook to order, I believe, on the weekends. But like I said, workout room, beautiful indoor pool, all the essentials that you need for your stay to accommodate your family and your friends. We'd also like to mention our special guest we're going to have in the following segments. David Wilkes, he's one of my interns from the Ole Miss, so he's going to give us a report about the Ole Miss football team for this fall. And I know they're all excited. They've had a couple of good seasons under Lane Kiffin. They just missed out on the playoffs, but we're going to talk to David on campus here at Oxford, Mississippi. So he's going to be part of our next couple of segments. So we want to get into this SEC basketball. The height of their success all time, 14 teams made it to the NCAA tournament, 7 to the Sweet 16. They had a couple of teams, Auburn and Florida, make the Final Four, and they had the eventual champion, Florida. And just to look back at the game between Auburn and Florida, the semifinal, that's the best day of the tournament. If you've ever had a chance to attend the Final Four, that is the best day. There's 4 teams. There's excitement among the fan base. The stands are full. You have the bands sitting in the opposite ends of each basket. But it was great to see the 2 teams from the SEC represent the league. And Auburn, once again, they fell to Florida. Florida beat them at Auburn. So Florida's the best team in that league. It turned out they won that league championship, the tournament, and they won the Final Four. They beat Auburn once again at, like I said, at Auburn. And then here in San Antonio, Texas, it was a tight ball game. The key was they held Johni Broome in the second half. I think he had a couple of baskets. He had double digits in the first half. He ended up with, looking at this chart, excuse me, he ended up with total points, I think was 15. Yeah, 15 points. And Chad Baker-Mazara had the 18 for Auburn. Those are the two players in double figures. And we know that Walter Clayton Jr., sensational transfer from Iona, a native of Florida, could have played football, probably in the SEC, had some offers. He turned them down, played for Rick Pitino at Iona. That was a tough, very difficult decision, according to Walter, to transfer to the University of Florida. He was close to going to St. John's with Rick Pitino, but he stayed, had 34 points on Saturday against all of the Auburn Tigers, and they were able to defeat Auburn 79 to 73. But it was a great ball game. Came down to the end, but Florida had just a little bit more firepower, more consistency on offense, tough defense. They never could figure out Walter Clayton Jr. He got to the basket continuously. He was terrific. He had 4 turnovers, couple assists, but that 34 points, he led his team to the championship game where they eventually played Houston. But Florida and Auburn to make the Final Four. Auburn had a great season. Ended up 32-6, fabulous record. Second time they reached the Final Four, just came up short in the semifinals once again. But Bruce Pearl, he's done something magnificent at Auburn, and now the standard has shifted. And of course, making the tournament, that's the bare minimum. But making it through the tournament, winning a couple games, and moving on down the line, that's become the standard at Auburn now for that basketball team. So Johni Broome named Player of the Year, some places, some associations, some entities, but he led them to the Final Four and a semifinal berth. But Florida was too tough, and they showed out that they're the best team in the SEC, which was the best league in America this year. And essentially, you're the best team in America. They won the championship against Houston. It was a great ball game. Once again, they were down by 12. I had the feeling that I wasn't sure if Florida would come back because Houston's such a great defensive team. But there was a cold spell for Houston, and Florida kept themselves in the game and went ahead with about a minute and something. They hadn't been in the lead except for the early stages of the game. And finally, they came all the way back from that 12-point deficit, took the lead, and they hung on. They had the two free throws. The winning free throws were from Elijah Martin out of Mississippi, and he's a transfer from FAU. He played a very good ball game against Houston. And Will Richard, he was the key in the first half, keeping the Gators alive because Walter Clayton Jr., the All-American sensational player, he didn't score until I think he had a free throw with maybe 15 minutes left in the game. He was shut out in the first half, which was surprising. You're thinking if you could hold him down and a few of the other players, then Houston would have a great chance to win, which they did. And that was the game plan. Kelvin Sampson, he defeated Duke on Saturday by holding Cooper Flagg, letting him get his points and then holding everybody else below their averages. And they went out. That was a tremendous comeback they made to win that ball game in the end. And Houston, Kelvin Sampson, the 69-year-old coach, I think that was his third time in the Final Four. He came so close to winning a championship and beating Florida. But to Florida's credit, 19 seconds remaining, Houston had the ball. They never got a shot off. They never got an attempt. And Alex Condon, I believe, jumped on the ball when Emmanuel Sharp attempted the 3-point field goal. Walter Clayton Jr. put his hand up in the air, and Sharp, he came down without releasing the ball, so it would have been a double dribble if he touched it. 3 seconds elapsed, and by that time it was too late, and Florida came away with the victory on Monday evening, 65-63. One thing about Florida, and we said this before the tournament happened, we thought they were the most versatile team, could play fast, can play slow, go inside, go outside. And at the beginning of the game, Alex Condon got loose, just beating the other big men down the court for 4 or 5 dunks. just wide open dunks. So that hindered Houston's chances, but they did take that 12-point lead. I wasn't sure that Florida would be able to come back. They did. And here, Todd Golden, young coach in his 30s, has his first national championship. That's the third for the Gators, 2 under Billy Donovan, who, by the way, was one of the inductees that was announced this weekend to the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. How fitting that was that confluence of those Billy Donovan entering the Hall of Fame, and here the Florida Gators were in the Final Four the same weekend. So the Gator family they were thrilled for those 2 events to win the national championship and have Billy Donovan entering the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, the SEC. They received, I think, in the neighborhood of 70 million. You get units every time you win games for your teams within the combine. I think it ended up being about 70 million. But anyway, we're going to bring our guest on board next and finish up on the basketball. David Wilkes, Ole Miss student, one of my interns. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it. And as I said, we're going to bring on board our special guest, David Wilkes, an Ole Miss student. He's one of my interns on the Oxford campus. Hey, David, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it, Dave. Appreciate it. We're gonna finish up, David, about the basketball. I mean, Ole Miss had a good season. NCAA, both teams, men's and women's, in the tournament. So I know everybody in Oxford was very happy, and they're looking for bigger and better things probably next year.
Yeah, we're very excited. First time for the men's being in the Sweet 16 since 2001. First time ever men's and women's have been there together. And on the women's side, 2 out of 3 years, Coach Yo has been leading us to the Sweet 16. So it's been a lot of excitement, but I think everyone in Oxford is starting to get ready to transition their focus to football.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We just want to finish up, David. I just wanted to make mention the SEC on the women's side. South Carolina made the championship game. Dawn Staley has multiple championships from Columbia, South Carolina. The former Virginia backcourt star, player of the year, I think once or twice. I think she was the Olympic captain and held the flag. And when the USA team marched in, she has all the laurels in the Hall of Fame, Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. I covered that for the Charlottesville newspaper, by the way. But I've known Dawn, but I know that David, she was highly disappointed because her team faced Connecticut during the season in Columbia, lost by about 30 points. And I believe she has multiple All-Americans between 5 and 10. And once again, they lost by about 30 points in the the rematch. So I think her team, I don't think she's very happy. There's one thing to lose, David, but there's another thing to lose by 30 points twice to the same team. Didn't make an improvement, didn't seem to have an effect on them to be beat at home. I mean, it seems like they lost a little bit of sense of pride in that game. You would have thought there would have been a different outcome, maybe not defeating UConn, a powerful team. That's their 12th championship under Gino Auriemma, but I thought that maybe they'd play a little bit better, make it competitive.
Yeah, the dominance that UConn displayed is really what we've come to expect from South Carolina over these last couple of years, overshadowing what could be one of the most dominant programs in the last 100 years, which is what we see with the Gino-led women with UConn. So it's easy to forget about them very quickly, but with a star like Beckers and a coach like Gino, I can't say that I'm that surprised, even with how dominant South Carolina's been.
Yeah, it really was the same old, and I think that's a step backwards for women's basketball. I'm really disappointed that, and especially the games were not competitive. Texas and South Carolina, I think, met for the 4th time. That was a 17-point win by South Carolina. UConn ate up UCLA by 30, 40 points, whatever the final score was. And you stopped watching probably around halftime. It was at least 20 plus points, if I recall. So women's basketball, you won't maintain that edge and that upward trend like they've had in the last couple of years if it reverts back to the one dominant team winning by 30. You're going to lose your audience, David, I think.
Yeah, and they're good. They have to keep on developing these stars, but I think the intrigue that we saw with Caitlin Clark last year is that she was on a lesser team fighting to make these great upsets against well-rounded teams with like All-Americans coming off the bench.
Yeah.
So there's less of the intrigue in the first couple rounds on the women's side for these Cinderella
Right.
stories, massive upsets, and then as we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years, it's sort of been chalk as it's whittled down, and not as many
Yeah.
close
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. And I love nothing more than competition, David. I love to see, I'm not favoring any team. I'd love to see the competition, though, between the teams. Let's say wins of 10 points or less.
Yeah, and I think that's what has made SEC fans so excited about the basketball this year is that sure we had the dominant teams of Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida at the top, but on any given day they could lose to an Arkansas team or like my Ole Miss Rebels. They could beat Tennessee at home or go on the road and beat Alabama. And
As
so
they did.
it was the strength of the conference at the top, but also the depth to test those great teams that made every single game watchable.
Oh, yes, it certainly did. Yeah, there's nothing more fun for the fans, especially in the SEC. Have 16 teams, the 14 teams in the basketball made the tournament. David, I don't think people realize that accomplishment. And for years from now, because I recall 3 teams making it from the SEC, and I always bring this up. Alabama was 12-4 one year, did not make the tournament. That's how little was thought of the Southeastern Conference men's basketball. 12-4 in the league. David, you go to any of the league, ACC, Big Ten, you're 12-4, you're going to get in the tournament somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, right. I mean, there's teams with losing records now in the conference, within the conference making the tournament. So I don't know if the SEC achieves this again, 14 teams on the men's side.
Yeah, we look at it. I mean, Arkansas was 8-10 in conference play, and they went to the Sweet 16 and
Right.
have been in the Elite Eight. So it's not even that they're just there for the strength of the conference, but clearly the merit of their team, even as a 10 seed, was worthy to be on that stage. So it's very impressive. Maybe the most important year we've seen from any conference, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, I think the men's and women's will continue to be very good. Yes. Hey, David, we're going to shift to the Ole Miss Rebels, the football team. What should people know about this edition at this moment, 2025, Ole Miss Rebels football program?
I think it's important to look back on what we've been under Lane Kiffin so far, specifically the last couple of years. 2 years ago, we again 10-2, first time winning 11 games after the win over Penn State in the Peach Bowl.
Right.
And that was a team that was not very good, not as talented as a lot of the teams they were hanging with in games. But they just found a way to win at the end. If you recall that LSU game with Jaden Daniels playing essentially a perfect game besides a fumble, and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas going crazy here in Oxford.
Right.
Even that A&M game with Connor Wegman leads them a touchdown, 2 minutes left, and Dart does the same thing and basically ends it with 30 seconds, or even the Kentucky game with and so the team this year probably will have as many players drafted as Ole Miss has ever had, projected right now between 8 and 10 players drafted. And that's primarily on the defensive side, which has not been our calling card under Lane Kiffin.
No, not at all.
But we were a top 5 in run defense and in scoring defense last year. And so if we can find a mix, we're not going to have that same level of first round, second round talent as we had last year. But if we can find a way to bridge some of that defensive talent, hopefully the transfers pan out in a similar way, and also combine it with the grittiness that we showed in 2023 to win games that we maybe shouldn't, as opposed to giving away games that we control, like we saw with Florida, Kentucky, and LSU last year.
Right. Yeah, I know that the teams play the same schedule, David, for these 2 years, the 24 and 25 season. So that means that Ole Miss will go on the road against Georgia, I believe. So that'll be a tough game for them, but they beat Georgia by 18 points. And like you said, if they can manage to win the games where they're the favorite, especially a team like Kentucky, maybe their fortunes change. And we have this 12-team playoff at the moment situation for 2025. And then we saw last year 3 SEC teams earn berths. And Ole Miss was left out, as was Alabama and South Carolina. They were all, they'll say, I don't know if the right word is crying about it, but they weren't happy. Let's say their fans weren't happy, their coaching staffs weren't happy, but they did not live up to their billing against certain teams. So that's why they were left. And we said that many times on our show. But David, offensively, Ole Miss is going to be pretty good. I mean, they're usually in the top of the conference because of Lane Kiffin. It's always a question mark on the defensive side. And he said he had the length and the speed last year. I really think it was his year last year. Ole Miss, that was his year to make the playoffs. And they beat Georgia at home, which was terrific for them. But they fell short. But David, what about, you know anything about the kickers at all? Because I'm always asking about the kickers, because if you get to this top echelon, you're going to have tight ball games. Do you know much about the kicking game?
I mean, it's supposed to be improved. We've got Ray Traylon right now, who's apparently, I know his backup pretty well. I've actually in 2 of his classes with him, and he speaks highly of him. So I don't know the technical side of the kicking game very well, but
Right.
I like to think that he'll make the ones that are more consequential that we weren't able to last year. Even though Case was, made an all SEC case for himself last year, it seemed that the ones we needed to go in didn't really need to go. That didn't go in, and the ones that we didn't end up needing, where he was perfect on. That was what we saw against LSU. We left 6 points on the board in the first half, and we led that entire game. The Kentucky, I mean, we shouldn't have been in that position, but down 17-20, 42 yards. If you're going to be a team that makes the playoff and consistently beats those blue bloods, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, then you're going to need to make 42-yard field goals at home in perfect weather. So that is something that could swing multiple games, especially with a less talented roster.
Oh, yeah. Hey, David, we're going to have to take a break here. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. AP as we see it, and our special guest, David Wilkes, Ole Miss University of Ole Miss, Oxford. He's one of my interns, and we like to have David on. Really appreciate it. But we want to mention our sponsors real quickly. Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. Remember, Greer's got it, and the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta if you're looking for great accommodations in the big city of ATL. David, we're going to shift gears here now. We're going to have 3 categories. Have some fun in projecting which teams 100% believe they will make the playoffs. And there's 12 teams in the playoffs. There's not the 4 automatics that they're projecting for 26 and beyond. The SEC had 3 last year. We have the 100% category, believe. We have the high hopes category, and we have the surprise category. So I'm going to give my opinion, and we want to see if you agree, disagree, have another viewpoint. So anyway, on the 100% category, these teams, David, they're the blue bloods of the conference. Their fan base, they're going to be incensed if they don't make the playoffs this year. They're going to be unbearable, David. But number one, we've got to go in alphabetical order here. We have Alabama. Didn't make the playoffs last year. Kalen DeBoer, first year on the scene, ended up with the 4 losses, including the bowl game against Michigan. They played them twice, back-to-back years. I'd say Alabama is a team that 100%. Their fan base, their team, they believe they're going to be in the playoffs. They believe it. What do you say about that selection?
I think I completely agree. I don't think that they have adapted to what life may be like Nick Saban, and that's not about Kalen DeBoer as a great coach, but I don't think their biggest fans will have any doubt. I think I look at this category sort of like teams or programs that expect to be in, if not win the conference title game, and I definitely see Alabama fans as that.
Yeah, I put Georgia in that same category under Kirby Smart. He's you know, they made the playoffs last year. They're thinking business as usual, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason. There wasn't much reason going into this season, and we didn't get any more reason to doubt Georgia as being a contender, even when we view them as more vulnerable than they've been, especially since 2020. So
I'm going to do this next three, David. LSU, Tennessee, and Texas.
yeah, I think LSU and Tennessee specifically are going to expect to be there and in the mix. I think the defensive hires that Brian Kelly made last year to kind of fix what was a disaster of a defensive season under Jane Daniels last year,
Right.
his campaign, I think that was a huge help. I think they were much improved last year on that end, and I think another year to develop those players, and a returning quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier, who at different points in last season was looked at as a potential Heisman dark horse. I mean, he's the favorite actually to win the Heisman right now, and I think that's how people in Tigerland see it as well.
And the Texas people, they made it under Steve Sarkisian twice now, a couple of years. The first time in the 12 team playoff last year, and Arch Manning comes on board. We're going to discuss that later. But Texas, there's no question they're in the 100% believe category. They will be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I see Texas as a team and a program that everyone respects their talent, everyone respects their coach. There's a higher degree of respect that we're going to have for their quarterback situation because of the legacy that comes with the Manning name, of course. And I think it really comes down to whether they're going to be a team that overperforms or that impresses us with their dominance as opposed to relies on their talent, which I think everybody recognizes.
Right. Now we're going to move into the high hopes category. These are teams, their fan bases, they might have been in the playoffs, had winning season, won some national championships, but for whatever reason, they faltered. So we'll start with Auburn under Hugh Freeze. I mean, I'm not sure. I put them in that category, David, because they've won some national championships there, won some conference titles as well. But Hugh Freeze, he has yet to lead them to the promised land. But I think his fan base has high hopes. This is a turnaround year for them. What is your opinion?
I think they have to have high hopes. I think it's pretty much a make or break season for Hugh Freeze down in Auburn after multiple, top 10 recruiting classes and two straight really disappointing seasons after getting his legs under him. I don't see a world where under or close to 500 satisfies what they're looking for down in Auburn. At least beating teams that they expect to beat. I mean, but getting beaten by Cal, a middling ACC team last year at home,
right?
That's not what's typically acceptable, and that's not what's going to indicate a team that beats the teams they're supposed to and challenges the teams they're not. So, it's got to be better, or there's going to be big changes.
Yeah, we have Florida. We know that the Florida fan base. I mean, when you're in the state of Florida, David, you're tripping over recruits. You could recruit on a bicycle almost, right? Because they're everywhere. So the Florida fan base under Billy Napier, they have high hopes. They showed promise last year with that, and they had to play the same schedule again. As we said, they had one of the most difficult in the country, and they survived and made some advances. Surprisingly, they were a surprise team, I think, what they did last year under Billy Napier, considering the schedule. So they're in the high hopes category, Florida.
I think that they're probably the best categorized team so far, where they ended the season on such a high note. I think that they sort of ended up where a lot of their fans hoped they would, but after such a disappointing start to the season, uh, obviously getting blown out by Miami in their opener, that never feels good for the Florida fans.
No.
But then DJ Lagway comes in. He's everything, if not more, than what they hoped, especially just as a
Yeah.
playmaker. And I mean, as an Ole Miss fan, I'm scared to even face them at home, just with how much better I think that he will be. And they have one of the youngest teams in the SEC, and so seeing that talent come to fruition is a scary sight for the rest of the SEC.
Oh yeah, we're going to move along here, David. I'll give you the last four in this category. We have Ole Miss, Mizzou, USC, and I put an asterisk next to USC, South Carolina. I'm not sure if they should be in that category, but they played pretty well last year. Came very close, and Texas A&M. So we got Ole Miss, Mizzou, South Carolina, and Texas A&M in the high hopes category.
Yeah, I sort of break that down. Sort of how, like, based on last year's performance and also hope in their, high achieving players. And I look at Lenora Sellers as somebody who was great last year when he was healthy. And, it was able to grind out wins and, keep games close that probably shouldn't have been. And I put him in a similar category as DJ Lagway, where it's like he could be the best quarterback in the SEC this year. And if that's the case, then I have no reason to doubt that South Carolina is at the high end of this group, or just following up. And then I think Ole Miss probably comes in there next with their third or their fourth in wins over the last 4 years in the SEC. So there's a little bit, they're starting to develop that continuity of consistently being a couple games, if not more than a couple games, over 500. And I don't know if there's been any more excitement for an Ole Miss quarterback since Eli Manning for his first start than Austin Simmons after that one drive versus Georgia. And that's inspired a lot of hope down here in Oxford, and I think.
Yeah, and then Texas A&M what they usually pay their coach. Of course, I don't know about this particular coach, Mike Elko. He came over from Duke, of course, had been at Texas A&M as a defensive coordinator. But Texas A&M, they always, they have the resources, and that's always the cry. We have the resources, but they haven't done much as of late. So that's why I put them in that category. I hope. Now we're going to move on to the last category, the surprise category. If they even had a berth as the fourth SEC team, it'd be a total surprise. Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Now here's a surprise team in here, David. And Mike, my opinion, Oklahoma is in that surprise category. A blue-blooded team is in the surprise category, which that should not happen. And then Vanderbilt, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a mixed bag. It's a pick of your liking with this group right here. I mean, Oklahoma, I don't think would be necessarily viewed this way if they were still in the Big 12, but there's just not the parity that there is in the Big 12 and the SEC. And so it's every win is a struggle in the SEC, especially when they're down even by their standards. So, I'm not going to rule them out of making a backdoor bowl game, but I don't see much reason to think they could do much more than that.
Yeah, they're in that surprise category, in my opinion, until they show that they can play in the SEC. They had one win before they beat Alabama in the conference at near the end of the year, second to the last game. So, but David, we're going to come right back after these messages with AP as we see it. And we're back with AP as we see it, and our special guest, David Wilkes, Ole Miss, one of my interns for the program. David, we're going to discuss the quarterbacks, which we always mention on this show, quarterbacks and kickers, because they're important people for the football team. So we're going to go through the quarterbacks. We go through things alphabetically. It's just easier to remember 16 different teams if you do it alphabetically. So we're going to go through the teams and the potential quarterbacks. One of the most interesting battles at the moment, maybe around the country, is this Alabama team with Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, the transfer from Washington, been there a couple of years now at Alabama. Ty Simpson, he's been there 3 or 4 years. And Keelan Russell, the sensational freshman coming out of Duncanville, Texas. So they're all vying for that position. I don't know what's going to happen, but David, that is a position that Kalen DeBoer has to massage because there's only 3 quarterbacks on scholarship. If one of them leaves, you're down to 2. So he hopefully has a plan, which I'm sure he does, but this Alabama quarterback position is dicey.
Yeah, and they have high expectations regardless of whether their quarterback comes in and is a star or not. So it'll be an interesting competition, and it could be one of those things to follow that'll determine whether they're hitting their heads on the ceilings of their expectations or underperforming because of the talent deficit they may have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they expect big things from the quarterback at Alabama. We're going to move over to Arkansas. Taylon Green, the transfer from Boise State. I like him. I think he's going to get better under Bobby Petrino. Has a grasp of the offense. He'll get the ball out of his hands quicker, I think, because he's highly talented and the dual threat quarterback, big 6'5", long strides. I think under Bobby Petrino, you'll see improvement. And if you see improvement from the quarterback, that means the offense will be better as well.
Yeah, and I think it'll play better into their game script as well. Being able to use his legs and sustain longer drives, it'll take pressure off the defense and hopefully, turn some of those games to fit their style of play.
Yeah. Moving over to Auburn, we have Jackson Arnold, the transfer from OU. He beat Alabama already. Those Auburn fans love the fact that he beat Alabama. He'll have 2 years there. And Deuce Knight, the 5-star freshman. Of course, Jackson Arnold was a 5-star player as well. And then Ashton Daniels, the senior transfer from Stanford. So they should have somebody who could run that offense. I think Deuce Knight, you'll see him playing some during the season, David, because highly sought after recruit, and I think he'll get some time in the Hugh Freeze system.
Yeah, I think it's exciting right now for Auburn. If they're going to be good under Hugh Freeze, this should be the time to take the step forward. And I think it's an interesting high school class to analyze. Whereas Nico Ilamaliava and Jackson Arnold as the top 2 players in that class, neither of which had amazing seasons last year.
Right.
Obviously, their teams went in opposite directions, but I think they are going to have a huge impact on what their teams do this year and more control over that. So it'll be interesting to revisit that debate coming out of their high school class.
Absolutely. Now we have Florida, DJ Lagway, 6-1 as the starter, I believe, 5-star sophomore. Harrison Bailey, the Louisville transfer, Tennessee, and UNLV. So, but DJ Lagway, he's the key for Florida. He played well when he had his chances, when he wasn't hurt. So I think Florida will be all right at the quarterback position, just in case of the other parts of the team can catch up to his performance. So DJ Lagway, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, if the young guys on their team, the sophomores and juniors stepping up this year, have a similar progression that DJ Lagway had during the season last year, then Florida can be a really scary team. And I think if they are, DJ Lagway will be a driving force of that. There's a lot of excitement.
Absolutely. Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, the sophomore, he came in, played fairly well when Carson Beck was injured. And you have Ryan Puglisi, the freshman, and Jaden Rashada. I'm not sure if he's going to be there. The Arizona State transfer, we know he has the backstory of being a highly publicized NIL candidate at Florida, initially at Miami, sued. I think he's suing Florida. So, but anyway, Gunnar Stockton will be the starter, and he's got a chance to do some good things for Florida because I think they're going to, for Georgia, Georgia, how can I get that wrong? Georgia, because he's going to have some better receivers. So Gunnar Stockton, I think that's would be a good quarterback for Georgia this year.
Yeah, I think we've seen Georgia not have to be overly reliant on their quarterback to elevate the team, but to complement the team. Whereas we look at some of these younger guys stepping up, and if they lift their teams to success, they'll be quarterback centric.
Right.
And I don't see Georgia as needing to run their whole system through Gunnar Stockton to be successful. I mean, we saw them have big wins last year without him. So,
yeah. I agree. Kentucky, Zach Calzada, he played at Texas A&M. He was involved in that 41-38 upset of Alabama, threw for 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was at Texas A&M. Auburn, hurt their incarnate word. So he's been at 3 schools. This is the 4th school. So he'll probably play pretty well at Kentucky. And then they have the redshirt freshman Cutter Boley. But I think Zach Calzada, he's got a chance to do something at Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have high expectations for Kentucky this year, but
Right.
there will be probably 1 or 2 SEC teams vying for a playoff spot or vying for a bowl game appearance that watch their game against Kentucky and are like, where the heck did this guy come from? And he looks like he could be the best quarterback in the SEC. And when he watches other games, I don't think so, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't spoil a team or 2 seasons.
Probably so. LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, Heisman hopeful. Michael Van Buren, the transfer from Mississippi State. So LSU, they're fixed at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, co-Heisman favorite with Arch Manning, as we will discuss. Somebody who can really, I think they trust to air the ball out if need be. And hopefully they don't have to, and they can rely on him in big moments, which he got some experience in last year. And if he can rein in some of those not even errant throws, but just poor decisions, then LSU can have one of the best offenses in the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. Ole Miss, you know something about Austin Simmons, more of a pocket passer, and he's a redshirt sophomore. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously we got to see a sneak preview of him after Jackson Dart went out during the first drive of that Georgia game, threw a pick in our own red zone, and they went down and scored right away. And probably the most important drive of our season, and one of maybe the most in Ole Miss history in terms of being down 7-0 to Georgia, coming back right down the field as an 18-year-old against that defense, keeping us in the game, and what ended up being one of the biggest wins in our program's history. It inspired a lot of hope, and I think everyone here in Oxford is happy that he's no longer playing baseball. And we don't have to worry about any injuries on that front. But definitely very excited for him. I'd put him sort of at the back end of those younger quarterbacks that are stepping up and have high variance. It could be a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the SEC and could struggle and be towards the back end of the conference.
Of the conference schedule. Yeah, AJ Maddox, 185-pound redshirt freshman, also part of Ole Miss's program, and Pierce Clarkson, the transfer from Louisville. So they should be all set at the quarterback position.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting and very, very young room. So, I don't know who I would trust more to make things easier on him early than Lane Kiffin. And so I just pray that they get that relationship as tight as possible so they can play comfortable and free once the big games come.
Yeah, we got to hustle along here in the last couple of minutes. Mississippi State, Blake Shapen, the transfer from Baylor, was injured, played some last year, and then Luke, and I can't even begin to discuss how to pronounce his last name, Luke Kromenhoek, I'm going to say, sophomore, Florida State transfer, and then Kamario Taylor is a freshman, Mississippi State. So we'll see what happens there. They're rebuilding their program. Missouri, Bo Pribula, the Penn State transfer, redshirt junior, and Drew Pine, the redshirt senior at Missouri. We have, and that'll be an interesting battle. I think Bo, they brought him in to be a starter, I believe. But Oklahoma, John Mateer, Washington State transfer, Michael Hawkins Jr., the sophomore. Mateer brought along his OC as well. So we think that's going to be the quarterback at Oklahoma. They're looking for big things from him.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Washington State, obviously conferenceless last year, but be a good team, and largely because of the production that he provided. So if he can do a similar thing that the previous Washington State quarterback can do, then Oklahoma might actually meet their fans' expectations this year.
Oh yeah, South Carolina, we discussed Lenora Sellers, the redshirt sophomore, and then Aaron Nolan. That's an interesting transfer, redshirt freshman, Ohio State. Tennessee, Nico Iamaliava, the redshirt sophomore, looking for him to improve, be more accurate, anticipate his throws. They have a redshirt freshman as well. And Texas, Arch Manning, we know, redshirt sophomore, there's no question. Texas A&M, Marcel Reed, the redshirt sophomore, and Jacob Zeno, he's a UAB graduate student. And then, of course, Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, the magic, he has magic, Diego Pavia. The name is magic. His performance has been magic. He's magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's a great group where basically, I mean, I wouldn't put Pavia into that category.
Right.
Maybe I'll be wrong, but any of those guys could be best quarterback in the SEC, or up there with the best quarterbacks, and they're all very young. All besides Pavia, less than 15 starts in the SEC. So,
right.
Very excited for Sellers and for Marcel Reed. We saw what Marcel Reed did when he came in against LSU. The way they finished the season didn't go exactly how they wanted, but still inspired hope for this year. And
yeah, David, we got to get going. Hey, thank you for being our guest, David Wilkes, Ole Miss intern. We'll be back next week with another edition of AP As We See It.
Thank you.